All right, welcome, Erin.
Thank you. Good.
You look fresh. You look like you just ran 6 miles or something.
Yeah, I did. Just about 6 miles.
Okay, good for you. I'm proud of you, as always.
Thanks.
Good looking hoodie. You're ready to rock.
I like this hoodie. It's on sale, super sale, blowout.
Well, it's not really on sale, but it's for sale.
Super fast shipping. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend it. One of my favorite pieces at the moment.
Oh, I like the pitch. Yeah, it's limited. There's very limited numbers of those. So get on them while you can. All right, we're here to talk about the old Ironman Arizona. Enigma in my life. I've heard so much about it, but I've never been.
I think you should give it a whirl.
Perfect conditions, flat, fast course.
I think it's kind of tricky, though. I think it can come out and get people.
Can't they all? I mean,
oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm like saying that going, in my mind, I'm saying it's easy Ironman, but there's no easy Ironman. So it's those are the tricky ones. I think sometimes when you go into it, it's perfect day, perfect weather. Everything's just going to be easy, and it's not going to be easy. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
We just had our podcast released. Did you see the title?
No.
What's harder, Ironman or a standalone marathon? Based on
that's a good topic. I think standalone marathon personally, but
yeah, I know you. We debunked your theory, but
all right.
Well, I mean,
it's all relative.
Yeah, it is all relative. We had a really good discussion about it because, people race marathons and not too many people race Ironman.
That's true.
Survive. So, I think the fact that most people can't run the marathon pace at the end of an Ironman pretty much sums it up for me. So go ahead.
We don't have to debate this topic right now.
No, but we can do it later.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, because, Anyway, let's go to Arizona. You've been there, I guess you said 4 years ago or 5 years ago?
Yep, the last time I did it was 5 years ago, but I lived in Arizona for almost 10 years. So I have done that race 3 times.
And you've lived there, you know the vibe.
Yeah, it's a cool town. It's in Tempe, Arizona. It's a college town, so it's got a similar vibe to Wisconsin, but since I've been there last, the town has blown up, really expanded. So pretty cool.
Have more lodging options.
Yes.
Is it Arizona State or Arizona?
Arizona State University is in
Arizona.
Yep.
All right. So I've been there actually to Tempe, just through there. It's kind of I want to say it has mountains, right?
It does. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was probably on a party binge, but I remember it having mountains.
It does have mountains. Yes.
The football stadium and mountains around everything. But the race itself is not mountainous, correct?
No, it's relatively flat. The bike, I think, is deceiving. It still has like 2,500 feet of elevation gain. So it's not super flat, but it's flat-ish.
Yeah.
And the run is pancake flat. There's one hill. You have to do it 3 times because it's a 3-loop run, but I think there's like 500 feet of elevation gain on the run. It's very flat.
So, yeah, pretty easy course.
But it can be very, very windy.
Ooh. All right. So the wind comes in. But anyway, we'll start at the beginning, of course, as you come into Tempe. See all the mountains, and then you stay. Is the race located sort of downtown?
Downtown Tempe. So it's at Tempe Town Lake is the race venue. There's Tempe Town Park, I want to say it's called. It might be called Tempe South Shore Park. But all along there on Rio Salado Pathway or Parkway, they have built up all the hotels. So it's one of those races now where you can park it and you don't have to get back in your car all weekend. You can walk to transition, which is right there in Tempe Town Lake Park. And the swim start is 500 feet to transition. It's like the shortest transition I've ever done. So that's really nice. But, you know, Athlete Village is right there. So when you go to do athlete check-in, gear check, it's all right in that little area. You can walk out the door from your hotel room in the morning and, you know, be there in 2-3 minutes if you want. So it's really nice that way.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. And the is it like you said it's a lake or
It's a man-made reservoir. They call it a lake, but it's a man-made reservoir, and it is at this time of year it's pretty chilly. So that I think throws people off because I think they think they're gonna get a nice warm Arizona swim, and that water is usually 65 degrees or less.
Is it the old nighttime in the desert type of deal?
Yep.
You know, fun fact, I think that most lakes are actually man-made.
Really?
Even places like Wisconsin. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know there's a lot of man-made lakes in Wisconsin, but I didn't know that most of them are.
I don't quote me on that, but a lot. I mean, I think a huge portion of lakes are actually man-made.
Oh, there you go.
That's what it is. But yeah, so you're in the reservoir. It's going to be cold.
Yes.
For sure, wetsuit legal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And do you remember it taking your breath away type cold or?
Yes.
Okay.
It is chilly. I'm a person that doesn't necessarily like wearing sleeved wetsuits, but in this case, the last time I did it, I wore my sleeveless wetsuit, but I did wear like arm sleeves that are detachable because I think the water temperature was 62 that day. A lot of people wear neoprene skin or swim caps, and then they put their Ironman cap over that. Some people go as far as like the booties. I didn't do that for the last time I did it. And to be quite honest, I wish I would have. I get chilly in the water, and I think I was very unprepared for just how cold it was. Because when you get in, you walk down a little pier and you have to jump in. So it's not a gradual, you know, get your feet wet. You get in and you get that. It takes your breath away right away, and then you got to calm yourself down and start swimming. And I was unprepared for the amount of cold that I felt, for sure.
The amount of cold that I felt.
Yeah. So if you can get in the day before to do, you know, a little 10-minute swim so you know what to expect, all the better.
Because the temperature in the air is probably pretty decent.
Well, this time of year, you know, we have the desert cool nights, so it'll be in the 50s in the morning usually, and then it warms up throughout the day. You know, usually it's 80 degrees or less, which is really nice, but in the morning it's chilly. So you're going to be down there in your sweats, you know, or your wetsuit trying to stay warm, and then you got to get into some pretty chilly water.
That's interesting. You know, with my recent love of plunging and stuff, I have a plunge tank in the summer, and it really was not that cold comparatively to what I would do in the winter, and it always felt harder when the air was warm, which is kind of odd. But so I think that may be sort of the case.
Yeah.
You're prepared, but you're not cold necessarily going in. So I don't know. It's just an interesting contrast, I think.
Right.
So you get in, the swim itself is a 2 loop?
No, it's one loop, which it's a giant rectangle. So you're going out for, you know, just about 1 mile into the sun. And then once you get to Scottsdale Road, you go underneath a bridge and then you start your turn. And going out into the sun can be kind of, you know, it's hard to sight and see the buoys. So I would just sight off the bridge instead because it's a lot bigger. It's easier to see than the buoys, and just kind of follow the people, which I think worked pretty well if it is sunny that morning, which it should be. It's Arizona. But then once you turn around and come back, you know, the sun is behind you, which is really nice, and it's a lot easier to sight. But it is only one loop, so you're going straight out for what feels like ever.
Sounds like the Koerner swim a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that course probably looks ridiculously long when you're standing on the shore, I would guess.
Yeah. You can't even see the last buoys.
Which is always fun. So you get out of the water and the short transition.
Yep. very short transition, which is nice. Utilize the wetsuit strippers for sure. And then the transition area is in like a big grassy field they have changing tents, of course, but it's all outside. So you don't get that little break of, maybe going inside and warming back up. So depending on how cold it is, you're going to stay outside and be chilly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now this is, Arizona is one of those races. They've never really had anything altered or canceled or anything like that. It seems like it's usually a pretty solid time of year.
Yeah. Yeah. The weather's, it's almost always sunny. I can't remember the last time it rained for this race. The only thing the last year I did it, and I know several years it's been like this, it's super windy in the fall out there. And on the bike, it's a 3-loop bike. It can just destroy you if you're not careful. So it's a little bit like Texas that way.
Oh.
It's on a highway and it's 3 loops. And if you're definitely going to get a headwind one of the directions. It just depends on how windy it's going to be that day.
But pretty smooth sailing on the surface.
Oh yeah, the roads are really nice. The Beeline Highway is, well taken care of. Shouldn't be a lot of debris on the road. Maybe, the biggest thing that might cause you a flat is cactus. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. But they do a great job sweeping the roads and making sure it's good to go. This is Arizona.
I know, but it's just like a whole cactus will be out there, or just
well, like little pieces of the cactus sometimes will break off and they'll
okay.
be out on the road. And if you run over them and you don't have thicker tires, you can get a flat that way for sure.
And then that would sort of like a tumbleweed flying out there or something.
Kind of.
Okay, so keep an eye out for cacti.
Yeah, but with it being a 3-loop bike, sag is easier to find, I think. So they can come help you, but obviously if you know how to change your own flat, that's going to be the way to go because it should be more efficient.
It's like the new Chattanooga course, 3 loops out on a highway.
Yeah.
Good sag. Is it a lot of traffic out there? Because in chat, they thought there's a lot of traffic.
It is an open course. I wouldn't say that it's a lot of traffic. They've been doing this race out there for years, so most people avoid the area on race day. You'll get a couple cars, but it's an out and back, so most people, there's not a lot of traffic. It's coned off, so you have quite a wide shoulder. The first loop can get super congested, so you really have to be careful with the people and maybe not necessarily what you're doing, but what they're doing, because you can, get into a wreck pretty easily with that.
Always the other guy.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So rollers, just manageable rollers, or is there any pinchers out there?
No, it's out and back. So on the way out, it's almost like a false flat the entire time. You can tell that you're going uphill. Your perceived effort might be 1 point higher than usual, but you're doing that for, a decent amount of time. So it's going to wear on you. And that's typically when you're going to have the headwind. So you're going up a false flat for 10 or so miles. You have a headwind. And then when you turn around, you have that false downhill. So you're going to pick up a little bit of speed and hopefully you have a little bit of the wind at your back. But if you're not careful, I think on the first loop, and it is windy that day, you're going to burn all your biscuits on the first loop, and then you have 2 more to go, and you're just going to destroy yourself before the run. So I've told my athletes to be really careful, especially on the first loop. Feel it out on the second loop, and if you're feeling good for the third loop, you can, hammer it home before you have to run a marathon.
All right, so coming in, is it like a exit ramp or just kind of a turn into the...
Yeah, it's a turn in back into Tempe. You go through a couple little side streets. There's a couple turns in there. I think it's 3. And then you end up back on Rio Salado Parkway, and then you come back into transition there. And there's a ton of people there. You're probably going to ride past your hotel and be sad that that's not where you're going. But that's where transition is, and you'll start your run around Tempe Town Lake.
Okay, Tempe Town Lake. So you run around the lake.
Part of it's around the lake. It's a 3-loop run as well. So, which is great for spectator support. So that's really nice about the race. You should have, a lot of fan support. There's a lot of aid stations out there about every 1.5 or 2 miles. It looked like from the map and from what I remember. So there's one hill and it happens right around mile 8. And that's like the only hill you have to go up.
So it's at the end of the loop.
It's at the end of the loop. You got to do it 3 times, but it's towards the end.
That's my finish.
Yeah.
Uphill.
A couple miles before the finish.
Oh, okay. All right. So lots of fan support, lots of cafes and restaurants and.
Yeah, not too many on the run course. Some, it's not quite as packed as like Madison would be. But definitely a cool area that you go through, the lake, and then you come out on a bridge and then you go through part of the town. But I wouldn't say that there's a ton of restaurants out there, but definitely a lot of fans.
A lot of fans. They like it. They like the race.
Oh yeah.
The city.
The city comes out, college students are everywhere because it's, right before Thanksgiving. So they're still in session there. So the town is super busy. So there's plenty of people everywhere. You're definitely not going to be alone. And on a 3-loop run course, you're going to have people, you're going to be with people all day long. So you're never going to have any alone time, which I think is kind of nice because I like to work on picking people off and passing people. That's how I pass the time. So I think it's nice that way.
I got you. So what's the finish line like out there? Is it epic, or what's the background?
It's in the park. So you actually finish on the grass. The red carpeting is on the grass. It's, it's crowded. There's a lot of people there. It gets dark really early there this time of year too. So don't be afraid to maybe put some long sleeves in your special needs bag, even if you're going to be one of the earlier finishers. It can get really chilly around dusk time once the sun starts to go down. So I told my athletes to put some long sleeves in there just in case. But the finish line is probably going to be in the dark unless you finish really, really early. And it's, it's still magical. It's still the red carpet. There's a lot of people, but there's no big iconic buildings or anything like that. So of the 3 Ironman I've done, I would say it's the least exciting finish line, but you're finishing an Ironman. So it's going to be amazing wherever you are.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a little bit like Chattanooga, kind of just a finish down the road, but I guess you have the river and it's. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. Every Ironman finish line is a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else that you'd like to say about that race? So you got a couple people racing and.
No, just. Swim the day before if you can for sure. So you know what you're going to get into. And then on the bike, just be super mindful of the first loop and kind of get a feel for the day before you make any big decisions. It's probably going to be cooler in the morning. So mind your nutrition on the bike early as well. Don't forget about it. But if you're coming from somewhere warmer, you might have to adjust because it'll be a little bit cooler in the morning. And then the run 3 loops, take advantage of the fan support and not having to be out there alone and, enjoy.
Yeah. So since it is kind of the desert vibe, obviously you're talking about maybe some extremes, does it get super hot on the run during the?
It can, November, we always used to say by Halloween, it should be pretty nice, but everywhere is experiencing warmer temperatures later. So you can still have a hot day there. It could still be 90. It's probably unlikely, but highs are usually upper 70s, low 80s. So later on in the day, if you're starting your run while it's 80 degrees and sunny, yeah, you're going to be toasty. And then once the sun starts to go down, it's going to get cold really fast. And we know that once you get cold, it's super hard to warm back up. So I think being mindful of that and grabbing a long sleeve if you need one early is not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's good. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause it seems my impression of it is that it's a perfect weather condition, but there can be sneaky extremes out there because of the nature of the air and desert and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's windy, just that bike course will destroy you if you're not careful. So if it's a windy day, just be super mindful.
Wow. Man, I've gone from thinking this is the easiest one. Now I think it's the hardest.
If it's not windy, it really is an easier course. And if you have some decent weather, I mean, you can't beat it, but you never know what you're going to get.
Just never know.
Yeah.
That's the excitement of it. All right. Well, I'm sold. Maybe I'll do it someday.
Yeah, you should. It's a great race. I love it. I thought when I was doing the research, I was like, maybe I should go back. But I'll probably do Wisconsin before I go back to that one.
I gotcha. How long is that drive from here?
From here?
Yeah.
It's about 24 hours of a drive. I would fly. You're going to have to fly.
I'm not doing that one.
Nobody wants to drive for 24 hours before an Ironman.
I do if you can take 2 weeks.
Yeah, I guess. That's true. Even still, it's a long drive.
I know. Okay, well, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find this helpful. I know that
My pleasure.
Arizona, is it still one of those races that sells out?
I don't think they've sold out in a lot of years. The last time I did it was one of those years where you had to get online and
that's
register.
Yeah.
The day it opened. Otherwise, you weren't getting a spot. I miss those days.
Yeah, I do too. Those were 3,000 people out there probably. Now they're probably capping around 1,500 for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do have a 70.3, but it's earlier. It's in October, I think. So.
Okay. All right, Erin. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And I'll
chat later.
Soon. Yeah. Oh, great.
See you later.